Welcome back to the 990 podcast.
Welcome back to the 990 podcast, guys. My name is Ray.
And I'm Jay.
Thanks for joining us on this podcast.
Yeah, we are on episode 6.
Six. How you feeling so far?
Feel good, man. Honestly, I really feel like we're having a good time, and these conversations have been really, really fun for me.
Yeah, outside the podcast, I was telling Jay that it's kind of forcing me to, not forcing, but it's pushing me to be more creative with this and trying to figure out, I don't know, I just have more things in my head that I want to come up with.
Absolutely.
And I've been having fun with that portion.
For sure.
Growing up, it wasn't, I wouldn't say I wasn't creative, but in this medium, it's normally for jobs that I have to be creative for. But because now it's kind of like just a fun thing with the homie, it's kind of like it's coming from a different place. So it's a little bit more motivated, if that's accurate to say.
I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, today we're going to be talking about childhood movie favorites.
Okay.
And let's see. Yeah, growing up, there was animated ones for me.
Okay.
And then there were kind of like the, what do you call, not the grails, but how would I describe this? Actually, let's start with yours. Do you have any?
Okay, yeah. Let's think here. When I think of some of my favorite movies growing up, I think top would be, Top Gun. I think that's probably what I think about as far as just defining my childhood.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be Maverick. Tom Cruise was like, you can't tell me nothing. Tom Cruise was the coolest guy in the world. Val Kilmer was the coolest guy in the world back then. When I think about just a complete movie, I think about Top Gun, even to this day. And what I'm saying by that is it was an action movie. It had drama. It was funny. Like there was just this amazing dynamic. Just between the actors, the storyline was intriguing, and it holds weight. Like to this day, it'll be on like TNT or something, and if it's playing, I'll watch it.
How old were you when it came out?
Shoot, man, I gotta fact check exactly what year it came out, but I was pretty young.
In your teens?
No, dude, how old do you think I am?
well, how old is Top Gun?
Top Gun is old, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man, like early 80s.
Early?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know
this
that.
guy.
I didn't know that.
Trying to date me here. Put me at like.
I'm gonna be honest. It's because I've never watched Top Gun.
Are you kidding me?
Not kidding.
Not even the second one. Not even the new one.
Not even the new one. And
Dude.
that's why I'm asking.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. I'm gonna school you on this. Okay?
Wait. Let me just put a disclaimer here. I'm not a movie buff. I haven't watched. As we go along this podcast, you'll find out that I haven't watched a ton of movies that are out and have been staples in the cinema world.
Oh no, yeah, I get it. Well, okay, 1986 is when Top Gun came out. Okay. How old was I? I was young. I was about 7 or 8.
I was going to say 8, 9. Yeah.
Yeah. Ray thought I was like driving my car already. This guy.
Well, I thought Top Gun came out like late 90s or something.
No, a recent one just came out. So there was a huge gap between the original one and this new one, and it actually follows. So
wow.
it is a continuation of the storyline. But this original one, it's good, man. It's the quintessential 80s action movie. Again, it's got all the elements for a good film. I truly believe that Tom Cruise, even though he might not be the most popular actor just because of his off-screen antics, he's just one of those guys that just delivers. Between that movie and all the Mission Impossible series, I always enjoy what he does. My wife hates his guts. Like, just cannot stand this man. I think it might be the Scientology. It might be just because he just does some weird stuff. But as far as actor goes, like, he can do no wrong in my book.
Yeah.
This guy's the box office king. But yeah, growing up, fighter pilots, man. Like, everybody wanted to do that. You got these ideas that you want to be in the air. You want to be a jet fighter pilot, like when you're a kid.
Were you inspired by that to have those, have that aspiration to be one, or?
No, not really. I just, I think for me, when you just think about like the Army, you just think about the elite, and when it comes to the fighter pilots, like just the amount of just not just testing, but just the rigorous physical training, like just the certifications, just all of the hours spent in the air, everything, to become a naval aviator. Like it's tough. It's not an easy job. So I think that, anybody that can do it should absolutely be respected. But they just seem to be like, the aces in the sky. They just were like the elite of the elite. I think what I liked about this movie was just the swagger that these guys had. These pilots, man, they know they're the guys.
What's the synopsis for the first one?
Top Gun? Yeah. Okay. So you have these fighter pilots. They get selected for a program. They're actually the alternates. So it's Maverick, who's Tom Cruise, and his wingman Goose. And they're basically like the second as far as like just the squad. And then the top guy kind of washes out in the early part of the movie. Is put into so again, this guy that is just testing off the charts is their number one guy. Gets put into a real world situation, freaks out, and Maverick and Goose kind of have to bail him out. So this program that they're selecting for, who this would have been their top choice, this guy Merlin, they decide to send Maverick and Goose instead.
That's why it's called Top Gun.
Exactly. So Top Gun is a program. From what I understand, it's an actual program.
Wow. Okay.
So these guys go, and then it's basically the best of the best that are there. And then, of course, shenanigans ensue. It's just kind of honestly like it's kind of a pissing contest between just the best fighter pilots, right? And then there's just, for that time, it's just crazy to me, the cinematography and what they were able to do with practical effects.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just real in-flight moments. They have, I know they spent a lot of time just with actual fighter pilots. And, from what I understand, it just seemed like a lot of very realistic dogfights and scenarios. So they go through this program. Spoiler alert. I mean, if you haven't seen it like Ray, then I don't know what to tell you. This movie's so old. But anyway, some things happen. An accident happens. Some people, unfortunately, die because of this. And there's just this whole redemption arc that happens with Maverick, Tom Cruise, the main character. And then from there, they get into like this real world situation. Back in the 80s, if everybody doesn't know, it was always Russia. If you were a bad guy back in the 80s, you're Russian 100%. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
Just how it is.
That was just how it is. If you were bad, you were Russian back in the 80s. So they get into this conflict with Russia, and then they have to have like this dogfight. And it was crazy. Again, it's insane to just see these guys fighting in the air the way that they were. And I really think you'd enjoy it.
I'm gonna watch it now.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's great. I some people think it's a little homoerotic, to be honest. Like the dynamic between the dudes were kind of sus, a little bit sus, but I don't care. It was funny. I thought it was great.
Just locker room kind of stuff.
Ooh,
okay.
Shirtless volleyball action. But and then again, it goes back into the movie that was just released, and that's kind of the new class. So Maverick goes back as an instructor in the new one. So
okay,
it's cool. Tom Cruise, he talk about longevity as an actor. This guy has been working for decades and is still putting out hits. So say what you will, that guy's top tier.
Would you say that he's the
top gun? Oh. Maybe. I don't know.
But you know what I found out about him was he's not that tall.
Yeah, he's short.
He's short, yeah?
He is short. I might be taller than that guy, which is saying something. That guy's probably got to stand on a box for a lot of his scenes. But
I wonder how they make him look tall. I mean,
hey man, angles. The magic of movie making, right?
MySpace angles.
There you go.
Top Gun. That's one of them for you.
Yeah. What about you?
For me, I realized as we're talking, Jay, that maybe the reason why I wasn't so into movies was because I didn't grow up with cable.
Oh, what? Okay. No, talk about it, please.
So
I didn't know that.
Maybe that's why I didn't, it wasn't really a grab or a pull. I wasn't, I don't gravitate towards it because when I was younger, because we didn't have things to kind of pull us in.
Okay.
I remember growing up and downstairs, we live upstairs from somebody, and downstairs they had a cable, one of those cable things with the
scrambler.
Is that what it is?
Where you can get all kinds of channels.
We just plugged it in our back and like twisted it.
Oh yeah.
And we had channels.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad scolding me for that. Yeah. Not because it was bad, but because we were using downstairs.
Got it.
But anyway, I think maybe that's side note. That's probably a reason why.
Did you guys didn't have like a? You wouldn't have been Betamax era. You would have been VHS.
No, VHS. We did have VHS, and this is what leads me to my favorite movie growing up.
Okay.
Which is Three Ninjas.
Okay.
Three Ninjas. Yeah. Is it? I'm surprised because not too much people know about it. I think, or maybe I just don't get out much.
Three Ninjas. I feel like was that Ernie Reyes Jr. right?
Ernie. I'm not sure.
Martial artist, I believe I think he was in it. If my memory serves me correctly.
Three Ninjas is what's his name? Victor Wong.
Victor Wong. Okay.
If you see him, you probably
Who else was in it?
Max Elliott Slade.
Okay.
These are all like random.
Right.
Yeah, Chad Power, Michael Trinor. No one's famous.
I thought Ernie Reyes Jr. was in it. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they did have a 2 and 3. Was he one of the 3 kids?
Maybe. I'm not sure. No, maybe I'm thinking the wrong movie.
Okay.
Continue, please. Okay, inform me about this movie that I probably did not watch then.
That's what I was going to say.
I did. I did.
So essentially this is 3 kids and they visit, let's read here. Each year they visit the grandpa every summer, and the grandpa's just like this highly skilled ninja guy.
Got it.
And he teaches his grandkids how to do these things.
Okay.
Eventually they get into some trouble. I forget which movie number it was, but one of the bad guys was one of the grandpa's students. You know how it goes.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
he essentially gets kidnapped. He gets taken to a boat. These kids need to rescue him, and it's just like. You look at the action and it's like terrible. These kids will get stomped.
How was the martial arts?
No,
not good.
No, bro, it's not good. They just kind of capitalize on the weaponry. They have
the grandfather was Asian.
Yeah.
Were the kids actually Asian?
No, they were white.
Were they Hapa or like
they're like wife?
Oh,
the mom was Hapa.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but they look nothing like the guy. Yeah.
Okay, I see you, Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if the reason was because I really liked it, or if it was because it was only one of the 10 VHS tapes that we had growing up.
For sure.
But I kid you not, I probably watched this movie. We had multiple, I can't remember now, but I remember watching the thing, guarantee more than 50 times.
Okay.
Just rewatching it as a kid. But there was one of them where they visit Japan.
Gotcha.
And it's cool because they kind of, highlight the Japanese culture, and they throw in the Japanese girlfriend of one of the 3 ninjas, and
got it.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a just classic old type, comedy, just fun, lighthearted movie.
There's 4 movies.
Yeah.
3 ninjas kick back. 3 ninjas knuckle up. Ooh. And then 3 ninjas high noon at Mega Mountain. Okay.
Oh wow! That's right.
You had all 4?
I think I had all 4. Yeah.
Nice.
I probably don't remember the first one, but the other ones were memorable.
Okay.
And I think the high noon one was the one that they took to Japan.
Gotcha.
And each one, I wouldn't say each one, but I think 2 out of the 4 movies, there's always this portion where they highlight the oldest kids like girlfriend or girl interest.
Okay.
And they always have like a chant or a teasing kind of chant. So one of them's like, Rocky loves me, oh, Rocky loves, and he, older brother gets upset, whatever. Right. But it's just lighthearted things. But what's cool about one of the these movies is that I always thought that their masks were cool.
Oh, they were. Okay. So they had the full-on ninja outfit, everything.
Yeah, when they went to go rescue the grandpa or did this whatever mission they had.
Were they like were they incognito? Like, did people not know their identity? Was that the whole thing?
I'm not sure if that was highlighted.
Okay.
But I think because it was just kind of like the ode to the ninja way.
Gotcha.
And so it was special to those kids because the grandpa was the one who gave these masks, and it meant something to them in terms of like each had a meaning, like their names had a meaning.
Okay.
Which the mask represented.
Okay.
So I always thought the masks were cool because, as a kid, I mean, you just kind of do fun stuff
For sure.
And I thought as a young boy, like, kicking butt and wearing masks while doing it was pretty cool. Yeah. And I also thought it's funny because now it's kind of like a style in streetwear. It's like a baggy leg portion, and it gets tight on the bottom.
Correct.
Yeah. Those are kind of suits that they wore. But Three Ninjas, I'm remembering it now, and I think that's the reason why I'm not so much. I didn't grow up in the cinema because we didn't have TV and
that makes
things to pull.
I wish you told me that. I wouldn't give you so much crap about all these things that you have not seen.
It's funny too because growing up, my friends would always talk about like TV shows. I'm talking like major ones like Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
SpongeBob is a huge one. I've never I probably watched like a couple episodes.
Okay.
I don't know all the characters or whatnot. And all the things growing up, I didn't know until the internet came.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And I was about maybe 8th grade, and I could look things up now, with shows, but it didn't interest me if I didn't, know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you the type of person to, if you're watching something, you're like, oh, who's this guy? What's this guy been in? Or like, who's this actress?
Nowadays I am.
IMDb that bad boy and find out like what else they've been. Where have I seen this person?
Yeah.
And you gotta look them up and stuff like that.
I do. I am curious about that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think I just want to know like their background and
For sure.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure. Like,
do you do that? Well,
I usually after the fact. Tristan is like will like be on there.
Does that bother you?
No, it's funny because like I'll just be like, oh, what's this person been on? But Tristan will go like a layer further and be like, oh yeah, he's dating so and so. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's Justin.
What? How'd you find that out? Like, what is happening? But no. So Ernie Reyes Jr., Surf Ninjas. That's what I was thinking.
Surf Ninjas.
That's what I was thinking
Dang.
about.
Yeah.
Sticking with the ninja theme though, were you like a Ninja Turtle guy?
That was my second go-to, bro.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
I think that might be shared with us. But okay, so another movie growing up in the 80s that was major for me. I could do two. I mean, the easy answer would be Karate Kid, but we kind of just did a whole segment, which basically almost sounds like the exact same movie. Yeah, like I think there was just like a martial arts like template for a lot of these movies.
Yeah,
you know, and it always involved like the Asian guy and then like some white kids. Yeah. I don't know, like that was just the template back then.
Yeah.
But for me,
Hollywood,
Goonies.
Have
you seen Goonies?
I did.
Okay.
There was a sequels to that, yeah.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
And if there were, I wouldn't want anything to do with it. Sometimes there's just things that you shouldn't touch. I've heard a rumor that they were going to remake it, and I hope they don't.
Really?
Yeah, man. Goonies is an incredible movie. Steven Spielberg, right? I think what you can relate to is as a kid, just with a lot of imagination, just seeing what these kids went through, the ideas that they formulate, the trouble that they get into. It's still innocent, right? But like it just ends up becoming this entire caper.
Yeah.
But it's fun. A lot of people know who Ki Hui Kwan is now because of he just won. He just won the Oscar, right?
Yeah.
For Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was one of his big breaks. That and Indiana Jones, of course. But he was one of the stars in that movie. You got Josh Brolin. A lot of people don't realize Josh Brolin was the older brother.
That. I think you only told me recently that I found out. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, man. So I mean, you have people that had very storied careers after the fact, but as child actors, like they were just, to me, it would just sound like just they had so much fun as a group, and you can kind of relate. Like when you got like a crew when you're that age and everything, just feels like so big and so important. Like you can kind of understand that. And in the context of the movie, obviously everything that was happening was very important, but you can kind of just remember a time where everything just had so much consequences, even though it might not have been that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I know we've spoken about this before, but for me, I've always really liked movies where the location plays a character in itself.
Yeah.
So that movie was actually filmed on the Oregon coast. And, Astoria, Oregon. It's this really small, sleepy town. It's funny because it still gets flooded with tourists just because of the
that
movie.
That's crazy.
Kindergarten Cop was also filmed there as well. And it's just this really sleepy town on the Oregon coast.
Kindergarten Cop.
Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh no. Okay, I didn't.
Ray. Okay. I'm gonna really start writing down these movies. And I'm gonna just, when you come over, I'm gonna start playing these movies in the background and be like, okay, you gotta like pay attention because these are like the things that like, this is what you missed out on.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so anyway, Astoria, Oregon, it's that location. It's a huge part of the movie, and it plays a role in itself. It's just a small, sleepy, rainy town, kind of creepy, a little bit ominous, but also like small America.
Okay.
They're right on the coastlines. The water, the coastline played a huge part of it, but it's just like a beach community. And I've been there. I went to school in Oregon, actually visited that place, and everything that they showed in the movie, it's exactly how it is in the town.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, growing up, that was that was my jam. Goonies was one of those major movies that I just remember. And again, another movie that I still watch to this day. If it's on, I'll definitely watch it through.
Yeah. I think Goonies is probably a cult classic that I feel like there's cult classics that have a certain amount of audience that consider it a cult classic.
Sure.
But then this one's kind of like,
it transcends, right? So again, there's some things that are dated just because of the time frame, but like when you look at the themes of just friendship, family friendship, again, just at that age, just having so many things where all your actions seem so consequential. Those are all things that I feel like are still relevant, even to this day, right? You can use that formula and put it in a movie, and it would do really well. In fact, I feel like if you rebranded this somehow, didn't call it Goonies, you could make a similar story, and it would do really, really well because it's such a captivating plot line. But yeah, just don't touch that. Don't touch that movie, please.
Yeah.
So
going back to Quan, when I watched one of his interviews, and I mean, he was so passionate about acting. I don't know too many people that are that passionate about something. I mean, I see some of them, but when I watch his interviews and how he talks about how excited he gets and how bright he gets talking about acting, and how he kind of had no jobs after that for a good while. It was heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's like he never. Did he stop? I mean, there's Indiana Jones after, right?
So he got kind of typecasted not just as a child actor, but as the Asian child actor, right? He had an accent. He wasn't born in the U.S. So there were a lot of things I think people wanted out of his roles that kind of just played to type, and he got kind of pigeonholed as that character in everything that he did. And then if you watch the last movie that he was in, the one that won the Oscar, it swept, right? They won every award. Everything Everywhere, all at once. Yeah. Did you see that? Not yet.
Take a guess, Joe.
All right. Hey, that's one of the ones that you should watch.
Okay.
I will say this, complete sidebar, right? Like everything happening right now with all of these comic book movies. The concept of the multiverse is kind of a big theme in all of these movies. And I'll be honest, like if you're not a comic book nerd, like you're gonna get lost. And
I'm lost.
I feel like this movie was the most digestible roadmap of what the concept of a multiverse is.
Man, when it comes to multiverse, is that, to you, is that a reason to create different timelines? Yeah,
well, I mean, so the concept of the multiverse, just from the comic book scale, it's a reset button, right? So you can bring back characters, you can bring you can introduce new versions of characters. It's the cheat code.
Does it lose the essence of what the whole franchise is about, or?
Yes and no. Okay, so let's just think about, let's just use any character, right? Let's just say Captain America, right?
Okay.
Captain America, given super soldier, all of that fun stuff. I mean, the guy's what, 100 years old. At some point, like, why does this guy not age if he's been around since this
19 whatever?
exactly,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So how do you reintroduce a version of Captain America? Maybe this one's, you can change his story just based off of, like, this is a different version of him.
Yeah.
You can change genders, you can change ethnicities, you can make the storyline fit whatever, just based off of the idea that we're going to do a reboot on this. So again, on paper, it works. Conceptually, I think it's very smart for the comic book world to be able to do that. And also not take away from the idea, like, hey, you love this version, but there's also this version. They can coexist. Does that make sense? But from a movie standpoint, I think that there's so many stories that need to be told. And because as an audience, we're so used to just a linear way of storytelling.
Sure. Yeah.
This concept is a little bit high level for most people, where they're like, what do you mean, like, there's like, what do you mean there's another version of this person that I love because I've watched for the last 10 years as Robert Downey Jr. and now all of a sudden this guy's Tom Cruise? What are you talking about?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
the people that play it.
we get attached to that version, but I think the idea again of the multiverse is that, this is, you love this version, you might not like this version. This version still exists. We're not taking away from that legacy. We're just going to introduce like an alternate timeline and an alternate version of this person.
As a comic book fan, are you for that? What would you have preferred, or what do you prefer?
I think that it's necessary because you can only come up with, I mean, again, it's an infinite amount of characters that you can create, but the audience, you cannot have an infinite amount of characters for the audience to care about that amount of, different stories. Right?
Yeah.
So if you have, let's just keep it simple. If you have 10 characters that everybody loves, they're going to tell their story. At some point, that story has to have an end. How do you continue that story, either through another version of them or a different timeline or a different, like if this had happened, now this is the way that this person looks, this is the way that this person acts, right? So I think it's good. And it's worked effectively. I think that there's a lot riding on Marvel right now with we're currently watching Loki season 2. They're gonna play a lot with this timeline thing now, the multiverse. They tried to introduce it in Ant-Man, Quantumania, the Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, No Way Home. So Spider-Man No Way Home was the most literal because now you got 3 versions of Spider-Man, right? You got Andrew Garfield and you got Tobey Maguire along with Tom Holland, and now they all exist. You realize, okay, now there are 3 Spider-Man. So will that work for every storyline? Probably not. I think that you had 3 beloved characters that just so happened to work in that storyline. But going forward, it's going to be interesting. The head of Marvel for the MCU, Kevin Feige, he just announced that everything that's been filmed thus far, whether it was Fox, Sony, is all canonical when it comes to the MCU. So,
wow.
Yeah. With that said, like everything that happened with X-Men and everything, it's gonna somehow connect, right?
Interesting.
And I think what they're gonna end up doing to make sure that the narrative is a little bit more followed, like people logistically will be like, how
in the world?
Like what? Like, why is Hugh Jackman all of a sudden here, and why is Tobey Maguire here? That's where you have to weave in the idea of a multiverse. Otherwise, it won't make sense.
The planning it would take to do that,
for sure.
I can't imagine.
For sure. And there's let's be honest, there's just too much money at stake. These are billion-dollar movies, right? And you have characters that need to come onto screen at some point. Like, you cannot have the MCU without at some point introducing Wolverine,
right?
Professor X, Magneto. Like, these are the Fantastic Four. Like, these are major characters that are going to be involved in all of these intertwining storylines. So you got to find a way to cleanly introduce them. That was a sidebar. Super nerdy.
Super
I'm sorry.
No. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, I don't know if we have time for one more.
Yeah. Well, please, talk to me about Ninja Turtles because I am curious to see what.
So I don't follow comics at all. So I don't follow the timeline. I just remembered movies growing up.
Yep.
I think another one was them time traveling to Japan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which one was it? Secret of the Ooze?
Shoot, I don't remember, bro.
That was like the third one or something. Yeah.
Might have been the third one.
Yeah.
But I know there was a lot of them.
Yep.
But yeah, I've always had an affinity for Raphael, just because that's my name. Yeah, and I've always. But it's weird because it's like, I mean, I think for myself, I always like to try to make some type of connection with something that I like or might want to like.
Yeah.
And so
Raphael was the emo guy.
Was he?
He was the emo one.
Oh, the angry one.
Yeah.
The angry,
he was that's why you liked him.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah, he was always mad. But every PlayStation game that I've come across with, I've always had to play him. Or even Nintendo, I've had to play Raphael. Yeah.
He had the coolest weapon. He had the size.
Yeah.
He was red.
He was red.
He was mad all the time. He was out of everybody. You had Leonardo was the leader, Donatello's the brains, Michelangelo's the funny guy, and then you got the ass kicker, Raphael, right?
Yeah. So, Are you following
the cartoon, the one that just came out, the new one?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it yet.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say spoiler, but something happens major.
Okay.
But I want to.
Did you see it?
I didn't see it.
You just
but
know
I read. Yeah. Like major.
Oh.
Like the main comic timeline, I guess. Yeah. We look it up after this.
Okay,
but we'll say that. But that was one of my
man,
stuff growing up.
It was good. Did you have? Did you have the toys growing up as well?
I did some, yeah. But not so much. Action figures never really made it to my world. I think I had like one Batman one that my grandpa got for me on his way back from Savers.
Okay, got you.
And it was cool, but it just wasn't. I wasn't really drawn to it. Or
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What did you collect? Action figures?
I still do.
Which is your most rare? Which is your most rarest one? Because I know there's some that.
Yeah, man. My parents, they got a storage unit, and I got all my Star Wars figures, like original Star Wars figures. I got the Millennium Falcon. I got the whole Darth Vader case with all the original figures.
That's insane. How much do they run? Have you checked on eBay?
What's sad is this, right? I know people would buy it just based off of the rarity of them. Some of them are kind of wrecked. Some of them are in good condition. They're not in boxes, though. I mean, I think you'd be kind of hard pressed to find somebody that had the insight to not unbox these toys when they first came out. At that
time, yeah.
Like, think about that, right? Like, collecting for the most part been around for a while, but when you talk about like just collectibles, how many people, if they bought it or if it was purchased for them when you were a child, who had the discipline to be like, hey, don't open this because in about 40 years
it's gonna be $20,000.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
All of my toys are like my shoes. They've been worn and used.
Hey,
right?
Lots of love.
Yeah. But man, Star Wars for sure. I got all the Ninja Turtles. I got He-Man. I got all those.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe, all of those.
Yeah.
Toys was a big part of my. Maybe that's why I'm so immature. I played with toys. Still have toys.
I think toys are good for now that I have Zoe, I try to bring out her. I try to foster some type of imagination with things.
That's
so
nice.
Any type of books or toys, I would love to present to her.
Cool.
Yeah.
Does she have anything that she watches like that you put on the TV and she just loves already?
This is global, man. Miss Rachel.
What is that?
Miss Rachel.
Okay. I don't know what that
she
is.
She was previously a teacher.
Okay.
But now she just runs
is it YouTube? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, she's huge. You ask any parent, they'll know Miss Rachel.
Gotcha.
What
kind of content?
Just singing. She runs it with her husband, and the husband is a super good musician. He plays the piano, and I think this is where the magic is because Aaron, who is the husband, can play and create the sound and melodies that complement what Miss Rachel's singing.
Gotcha.
And I think that's the magic behind it.
Okay.
Because he's so eloquent on the piano that he can create, different tunes and melodies in different keys,
Okay.
which kind of create some sort of attention it just gets the kids' attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's one huge thing that separates them from other channels.
I see. Okay.
But bro, they're huge. Miss Rachel's huge.
I guarantee my sister and her kids probably have seen it then.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll ask her.
I'm betting on it. Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
Unless they don't watch TV or
Oh,
YouTube.
they watch TV.
Yeah. Okay, they watch Miss Rachel.
Yes, they do. They do.
Okay, wait, how did we get to there?
Yeah, man. Well,
Zoe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was a nice walk down memory lane.
Yeah.
Last time we had a pod, we kind of just talked about like hopes, dreams. We talked about some of our fears. Internal and external. And I thought today a nice topic that could get deep would be kind of the idea about just gripping the mirror. You hear that phrase a lot about how people criticize others for maybe their worst qualities, but a lot of times we don't always recognize what our own worst traits are, and I thought that might be kind of an interesting discussion to have between two dudes and what we think might be some of our worst traits.
I think for me, the worst traits, when we talked about that, we talked about the external in the beginning.
Yep.
And I didn't realize it, and then we brought in the internal.
Yep.
With the external, I'll start off with external.
Okay.
Just for surface level. I think it'd be the shape of my head.
Your head's fine. What are you talking about?
No, see, this is the thing that people don't know, though. It's not.
Okay. Got it. Oh, you know what? You told me. You said like when you wear hats. Yeah.
It's just like
Gotcha.
It's a hill, man.
Got it.
If it might not be obvious on camera, but I feel like the shape of and I think what contributes to that is the way I've worn glasses all my life.
Okay.
I think ever since like third grade.
Okay.
I'm now older, but on the back of the ears, the tips rest on them.
Okay.
And because it's always like that, it's gonna form your head or some type of way, like the back of your. So I think that's what contributes to that. It's things that people don't think about because it's not,
But that's more of I feel like that's a physical attribute that maybe you don't like. But like if you were to think about like a trait of yours where they're, I don't know, like, hey, I'm messy or whatever. Like, what do you like? If you were to think about something, maybe like we can start off superficial, something like that. Like, what would you think would be like a trait of yours that maybe, let's say, your wife would not appreciate the most?
Oh man, I don't know, and not because I'm perfect, but let's see. Shucks. I need some time.
No
bro.
problem.
Not,
Okay. So let's think here. So for me, one of my, and this can go both ways. I look at it as being a bad trait of mine because of the reason behind it. Okay. So I'm kind of a self-proclaimed neat freak. Kind of drives my wife crazy. My wife's actually very neat, but the thing is, she can allow clutter to pile up to a point where, okay, now I need to address it, and then we'll just do a deep clean on the floor with a toothbrush type of situation. Versus me, I can't see it, right? As soon as I see it, I have to address it. So people would be like, "Oh, that's great," right? But it's annoying. I think it's an annoying trait for her because I'm constantly cleaning. Okay, and I think part of it might just be a little bit of OCD, to be honest with you, but some of it also is. Again, when we talked about some of our internal fears, I have this weird idea that I'll be judged based off of like the way that my house looks, or like maybe if something is unkept, or like if my car's dirty or whatever the fact, right? Like just little things like that might not even register on somebody else's radar. I have this idea that it's gonna mean something to them. Therefore, I get I get infatuated with that idea, you know, and I obsess over it. So like, for instance, like Ray comes over every week at this point. Okay. Before Ray gets here, I'm vacuuming the house. I'm like putting stuff away. Okay. And Ray just walks in and is like, I thought your house always looks like this, but I know Ray's not going to judge me logically. I know you're not. I know you're not walking into the situation and be like, this guy's got a messy house. You don't care. I mean, you know, we're friends. It doesn't. That doesn't even. You don't even think about that.
Yeah.
I fear that though. That you would walk in and like Ray, you know, that you might think like, oh man, like kind of messy today. You know. But the funny thing about it is, my house for the most part is pretty immaculate. It's always clean. And that's because of me.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, again, that might seem like a positive thing, but can you imagine like my wife like not being able to put
the behind the scenes
down without me having to pick it up and put it away? Like that's kind of a weird obsession that I have.
Can I ask if it was inherited or learned or somehow, how did it surface? You know, this whole...
I think if I were to think about like more deeply rooted stuff, I have been blessed with home ownership. So, you know, we've been living at this house for the last 2 years. So there is a sense of gratitude that's linked to that. Like, hey, I've been put into this situation. So therefore I need to make sure that I show my appreciation physically and I keep this place.
That's so good.
Clean.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
But also, you know, prior to this place, I had owned my previous condo for, you know, a good portion of, I mean, let's see, since over 15 years, well over 15 years, you know, and I think just having that responsibility early on, especially when I was younger, a lot of it was just presenting. You know, when people would come over, I just wanted people to be impressed. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right.
No,
so,
I hear
you know,
yeah.
like it wasn't necessarily even a pride thing. It was more like I wanted people to be impressed with everything that I had. So when they would walk in, they would always be like, "Oh, you know, wow, your place is really clean," or like, "Oh, it's really nice," or like, "I didn't think like your house would look like this," like stuff like that, you know. But again, that goes back to that external validation, right? You know, I'm not doing it for me at that point. It's
God,
me,
I was gonna ask you that.
It's me just feeling like I got to present to the world that I got all my stuff together, and you know, like everything is always tidy and in order. So I think there is a little bit more to it.
Can you imagine this? You've cleaned up your whole house before someone comes in.
Okay.
And they see one area of one little pocket and there's kind of a little bit mess, you know, and they say something like, "Oh, it's a little bit kind of cluttered over there."
Right.
Oh, but everything looks good. Well, how are you responding to that?
That would probably, I mean, honestly, I think it would be off-putting to me. I wouldn't say anything. And then as soon as they leave, I would just, or you know what? Actually, if someone were to mention it, I would probably clean it immediately.
Okay.
And again, I think with my therapist, we've talked about that. And she thinks that, you know, that might just be kind of a compulsive disorder where you feel the need, the compulsion to address things immediately or, you know, maybe try to be proactive in the situation. So those instances don't occur. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Exactly. Right. And a lot of that is rooted in unwarranted fear because I've never had anybody come in and say, like, who comes into somebody's house and be like, "Oh, messy, huh?" Like it doesn't happen, but like you kind of just manufacture this idea that what if that happened? Like, how would that make you feel? And again, that's just kind of been something that sat with me for a very long time. And, you know, even now as an adult, like, I still do it. It's gotten a little bit better. I think now that the house is bigger, you know, there's a lot more to clean. So I'm not able to, you know, do what I was able to do in my other place. But, you know, I think part of my identity, I've kind of just tied to my in my inhabitants, right? Like where I inhabit. And it's not always the best situation for my spouse.
I hear you. I'm curious if you were trying to tell someone how to dissect that, you know, how you mentioned it's manufactured into your brain, like I got to do this. If you were to give someone tips on how to not get to that point, or how to do it, what would your advice be to them?
You gotta be incremental with everything. So I think if you know, like for me, I think the trigger point is if somebody comes over. That's usually what it is.
Yeah.
And if I know somebody's coming over and you don't want to just get manic about it, you gotta just kind of in advance, clean areas at a time, right? So if you have that kind of compulsion, you gotta just have a mental checklist and just kind of go through the queue, of doing little things every day to kind of upkeep.
Yeah.
But I think on the flip side, the reason why I say this is one of my worst traits, it's I don't like being surprised. Okay, so perfect example, and this is a real personal situation here, but I don't like when people just come over. So like my mother-in-law, she lives real close. She comes over all the time. I'm surprised she hasn't busted through the door right now. But I love her, and the thing is, I need her to let me know that she's gonna come over.
Yeah, just let me know
so that I can clean up.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? To just feel that, even though she could care less. She really could. She really could care less. But it kind of puts me in a tailspin if she were to come over without me knowing and I had all my shit out.
Do you think there might be a slight chance, or even more of a reason that's coming from a place of consideration?
Possibly. Possibly. I mean,
and the reason why I ask is because I think I understand you well enough to know you're a very considerate person.
Okay.
And I can see that through when we were working at Apple. I mean, just the way that the workflow went, with just efficiency, and just being considerate of other people. And that's why I ask, do you think it might be masked as consideration versus, you saying that, I think it's just for me.
So this is kind of funny. Workplace wise, it's not my property.
I see.
Does that make sense? So that's consideration because I don't own it. The way that I behave, the decisions that I make are reflected based off of the idea that I am, respecting something else that does not belong to me. But when it comes to my own belongings, it's purely selfish.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And I can admit that. I can totally admit that. I don't do it for anybody else other than myself. And I think a lot of that is just recognizing that's why I behave that way.
Yeah.
So again, you can, people will hear this and be like, wow, that's kind of an awesome worst trait, but it's taxing, not just for Tristan, but for myself as well. Cause it puts a lot of pressure on me.
Yeah.
And I don't like performative people. I don't like fake people.
Yeah.
And in essence, I kind of am being fake because I'm not really, if I'm constantly worried about what other people are going to think or judgment that's not going to happen, I'm kind of being fake about it, and that's not a good feeling. So sometimes that waves on me. Yeah.
Thanks for opening up. I think that's good.
Do you
so
one?
I think,
Okay.
I think one of the things that I don't like about myself is waiting until something, I don't know if this is a trait, it's waiting until something needs to be addressed.
Okay.
And I think for me...
So procrastinating.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge umbrella for me. Yeah. And when I think about internal things, so when I was dating Josh, their family, they kind of bicker at each other.
Okay.
At each other. And what was difficult for me to understand was they would bicker and get upset at each other.
Okay.
And then a couple hours later, they're kind of on the good. Yeah.
Gotcha.
For me, it was over time, I talked to her about this, and over time, I felt that you shouldn't have to get super upset unless it makes you super upset, if that makes sense. And for me, it's you guys are going to fight about, or you're going to get upset about this small thing that doesn't need to be, maybe it doesn't need this kind of output or this, what do you call, this outcome. You're getting upset about this, and I'm like, that's not something you get upset about. And I wouldn't say anything until
Were you thinking if you're putting this much energy into it, how can you just let it go?
Yeah,
that quickly?
Yeah.
Why are you still not mad about this?
That's what I told Josh. Okay. I was like, why? If you're gonna get mad, get mad. And I think
Right.
it's because for me, it takes a lot for me to get super upset. But when I do, like Josh will know when I'm upset.
Okay.
It's because it's either something that's threatening the relationship,
Okay.
or that's threatening a life.
Okay.
And so I think for me, I don't say something earlier on when I think, or I don't correct it earlier on.
Okay.
And I think I don't like that because, and part of that is me not, is me skipping that explanation, because I don't know how to articulate well.
So you're internalizing this feelings.
I do without knowing, and it's because I have so much in my mind that I want to say in this particular moment,
Okay.
but I don't want to have to deal with it because I can't formulate an efficient answer.
Okay.
And
Fair.
that's one of my and sometimes that's unhealthy because like you said, when you internalize something, it's like I don't think it's big enough to
Right.
mention something.
Okay.
But when I do, it blows up, and I just end up, not being able to control my anger or my my feelings when the time comes.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if you would call that a trait.
No, yeah, I think it's a good example, and I think that's a lot more common and normal than you would assume.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, being able to express yourself clearly in a way for others to understand,
Yeah.
is really difficult.
It is. Yeah.
It's a talent and it's a skill that needs to be developed like anything else, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it is again, not in a bad way or in a good way, but a lot of it is upbringing, like a lot of times, like depends on the environment that you grew up in.
Yes.
It depends on what you've learned or what you
Yeah.
feel comfortable speaking about. And there's a lot of factors to that, but I think it's really common where people might have something that, like it's not that big of a deal, internalize it, and then
Yeah.
wait until it becomes a huge deal. And then it just becomes like this thing where you're like, whoa, like I didn't realize you felt that way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that can be difficult on families and friends and partners, right?
Yeah, and I think I've just gotten used to it. I mean, part of the thing that helps is I'm a pretty patient person.
Oh, for sure.
And it's for me, it's like you said, why should I exert this much energy for this type of outcome?
Got it.
And that's why I wait until something's worthy, I guess, for lack of a better word, to try to explain myself.
Okay.
But yeah, that internalization for me, it's there's a stereotype that men don't usually talk about their feelings. I mean, obviously that's not true for me, because I do like to talk about them when I feel that it's right.
For sure.
But for me, it's not because I'm a guy. It's because I don't think it's worth talking about unless I feel like there's weight to it.
Okay.
Which is bad, I think, because you want to be able to talk about even the small things.
Yep.
Yeah, like how one particular event could have made you feel, and keeping that in is probably not healthy.
Yeah.
But again, I think I have a good sense of what I think. But then again, this is, it's a bad thing because what I think that I could hold, that I'm supposed to put out, could be bad, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's internalization in a bracket.
Have you ever seek like talk therapy or anything like that?
I thought about, I looked around. Mainly, the first thing I thought was, okay, does insurance cover this?
Oh yeah, no, that's like
That's the one thing.
it feels
Yeah.
like a luxury. It does, like I think a lot of times people are like, I can't afford that, or I don't have time for that, or
Yeah.
I don't think like my insurance is going to cover that, so
Yeah.
therefore you put it on the back burner, and I think sometimes it loses its validity if you don't address it.
Yeah. But I've
yeah.
seen a bunch that it's getting pretty, I wouldn't say popular, but I think it's being exposed more, or it's being promoted more, which is great.
Yeah.
For me, talk therapy, honestly, if I'm being honest, I don't think it would, and this is what probably everyone would say, I don't think it would be beneficial to my current situation.
Okay.
That's kind of, and I don't know if that's right or if that's a good, it's not a mindset. I honestly think, I think I'm okay for now.
Yeah.
Because I do realize when when I do get upset, like, or I know the temperature of the season that I'm in, I guess.
Okay.
And so if I do need help, then I do talk to people it's just not a therapist, quote unquote therapist. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I do have therapists, but I just talk to different.
That makes sense. You know, I think what's good is that you have healthy communication with your wife. You have healthy communication with your family, and I think that's great. You know, I feel like even this being able to talk amongst friends, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
For sure. I ask, what you're talking about, I've personally gone through, you know, where you kind of present to the world that you're unbothered. You know, I think if people were to describe you and I, it would be similar temperaments, but people don't realize that I am a raging psychopath when, you know what I mean? Like
talk about this.
When I just lose it. Yeah. And I think it's because it feels like nothing gets to me until it does. And a lot of times it just kind of bottles up. And then it'll just seem like an isolated incident that shouldn't warrant the response that it gets. But at that point, I've just kind of lost it. And I kind of had a history of that. So for me, seeking outside therapy was good because I was able to kind of talk to a stranger that didn't know me and didn't judge me. So I was able to be very open and transparent about, you know, the things that were weighing on me and not have to worry about any backlash or any, you know, there wasn't any judgment. There wasn't any interconnections. There wasn't anything that was tying me to this person. So I could just kind of be able to say what I felt. But I mean, all that to say, you know, like, I think it's super common. I think it's really common. And I think it's good though, that, you know, you're able to address it. Yeah. That's a big one. That's a really big one.
You know, while you're saying that, I think in my head, man, in order to get to the safest place, I think transparency is such a huge thing to get to. For sure. And I've realized that when one of my accountability partners growing up, you know, opened up to me about pornography, and you know, when you end up, you know, if you've watched something, then he was compelled to tell me and be open about it, knowing that I wouldn't judge him at all. For sure. And just, you know, pray together. And he was my accountability partner and kind of my mentor almost. Okay. But knowing that he was my mentor / you know, accountability partner, him opening up about that and telling me and trusting me, I you know, that opened up my capacity of who I think who I should be, or it got me closer to that person. Okay. But without that, it was hard to even think or know that this would be possible for someone to open up and, you know, as a mentor and, you know, as a friend, opening up about that. And it was such a huge gain, for me in my walk with, in my faith. But that memory just kind of came back to me while you're talking about, you know, having a safe space to talk about these things. Yeah. But yeah, I think, I'm trying to think of other traits. And when you're talking about how people don't understand this about me. Yeah. One thing that I don't know if it's a trait, but maybe a fear, or maybe something I wish people understand about me, is that there's a line which separates good and bad. Sure. And I know, I mean, no one really knows this, but I struggle with it every day. Oh yeah. And people know that the difficulty it takes to stay on the good side. Okay. But people don't know that because I'm not gonna go and say, you know, I'm fighting, I'm doing good. Sure. You know what I mean? Like, who does that? But I think not having someone to talk to about that, and assuming they're not gonna, you know, judge you assuming that you're in a judge-free space, I think could be super beneficial or helpful. But you know, sometimes I told Josh, you know, I in my love language, it's physical touch, and then apparently this words of affirmation. Yep. And for me, sometimes I just want her to tell me, like, sometimes, like, you know, you're doing good.
Yeah.
You're doing good. And most times she tells me by her actions and you know, I love yous and all that stuff. But for me, maybe that's a trait of mine that I should work on, is talking about, you know, talking more about those things.
I think because you've established just excellent communication with your wife, I think that is somebody that you never need to fear about being. You should never feel like you're exposing too much of yourself. You know, like I feel like that is a very safe place to be able to tell her what's on your mind, whether you're struggling with something, whether you're having a difficult decision to make, or whether you think maybe the action that you did was wrong, or whatever it may be. You know, like I feel like it starts in the home, you know, and I think that is you're lucky because you do have somebody that you can be honest with about these things.
And you nailed it. I think transparency is such a huge aspect into that's in a relationship.
Yeah.
Because once you know everything about a person, it kind of, you know, you're not hiding anything anymore.
Sure.
And I think that gives a true representation of who you are. And then you realize, man, this person accepted me for who I am. I mean, even though the things that I've mentioned to her, or that she knows about me, regardless of those things, she still, you know, this person still chooses to love me regardless. So that transparency is huge.
I've always thought it's interesting when people judge someone's character based off of the person that they were before, not just even a relationship. Not let's take it past a romantic relationship. Just say when you establish a relationship, whether it's a friendship, mentorship, partnership, anything like that. I think a lot of times we tend to hold on to what someone may have been, you know, and we hold them to those things. Don't get me wrong. If you're like a serial killer, or, you know, like somebody that just has a pattern of behavior of bad, that's something. But if somebody has just past transgressions, or anything where this was the person that they were, and they've shown that they have evolved and become fully formed, or have done the work to become a better version of themselves, you should look at that and really judge based off of your current relationship with them, maybe not the life that they had before you. You know what I mean? And I know that's difficult. It's a lot easier said than done, because I've judged people, you know, like I think it's really common, you know, I know people have judged me just based off like, oh, you know, like that's how you were, or that's who you were. But what does that have to do with us now? You know what I mean? Like from the moment that I've been in your life and you've been in my life, again, in whatever capacity, I've tried my best to show you that this is who I am, you know, and I would love for you to be able to judge me based off of that, not based off of everything else, you know? And it's difficult. You know, human nature, you're gonna history, you know, oftentimes repeats itself. So there's that, right? But also like, you know, it's hard to kind of just shake the idea of maybe a life that someone had before their life with you, or their time with you, or their partnership with you, or their friendship with you, right?
Right.
Yeah. For me, I think one of my worst traits is, and this has come up pretty frequently, and I think I feel comfortable sharing with you, is I have very, very recently kind of come to terms with the idea that I haven't always recognized mental health as being just a prominent issue when it comes to others. I feel like we are in, at times, it's a hypersensitive society where any little thing there's an excuse for. And I think sometimes it can seem like a crutch to just be like, well, it's mental health issues, you know? This is why I behave this way, or this is why, you know, like I can't do this, or whatever it may be. I had a really hard problem with that. I had a really hard time with that. Whether it was work, whether it was with friends, whether it was just with complete strangers, I always looked at that type of thing as being an excuse. And I think when we talk about gripping the mirror, like I oftentimes didn't realize that maybe things that other people were struggling with, I was struggling with myself. I just didn't recognize it as being a mental health issue. And the way that I dealt with it wasn't the most healthy. I kind of was just like, well, figure it out, you know? There's this kind of like this, Tristan always teases me that I'm a caveman, like just hyper masculine uber male that just happens to be just very sensitive, right? There's this weird like juxtaposition here, but it's a real thing where, you know, I at times wouldn't be able to empathize with somebody or even sympathize with them, with their situation, because I just felt like it was being weak-willed. Like, hey, why can't you figure this out? Why can't you do this? I figured it out. I did this, even though I had all this other stuff going on. Like, how come you can't? And I don't think that was very fair. I've recently come to terms with that more through Tristan, because, you know, Tristan will tell you right off the bat, like, you know, she's got some things that she's working through. And that was probably my first exposure of just having somebody so close to me, you know, somebody that's such a huge part of my life, be very open about, you know, her struggles with mental health. And it really forced me to kind of look at how I've always addressed that. And made me feel really guilty. She didn't make me feel guilty. I felt guilty about how oftentimes I didn't understand that when it came to the struggles that people go through. That's something that I think I'm still working on. There'll be days where I'll catch myself and you know, again, whether it's at work or whether it's just, you know, outside, and I'll see a situation and I feel like people are using what I believe to be an excuse for a behavior or a decision, and it just seems to be like a cop-out. I have to kind of put a pause on it and be like, well, maybe they're going through something that I don't see. And that's always tough, right? When you talk about like physical health, you know, you can see when somebody is handicapped physically, or, you know, maybe if there's some type of ailment that you can physically see. But if it's invisible and we're just talking and I don't know that in your brain, these are all the things that you're struggling with. Like it's hard to put yourself in those shoes, right?
It's, man, that's a tough one, because I do catch myself sometimes, and then I'm like, I always try to bring it back, and I look at the childhood that I grew up with,
right?
And I've been such it's been such a blessing to have good parents and a good household, and that's why I think that's where it comes from in terms of like the way that I respond to things, and how I see other people respond to things with how extreme their responses can get for something so what I think is so minuscule. And I always try to say like, oh, you know, maybe they don't have maybe they didn't have the good parents that I had growing up.
Right.
Maybe they didn't have a house to grow up in.
Sure.
You know, maybe they didn't have all these things, and maybe that's why they move the way that they move. And I always try to consider that every time I come across something, and that's why I try to be patient with a lot of things, because I know, you know, everyone lived a different life or went through different experiences, good or bad, and I try to. And I think that's where the curiosity of, I want to see a movie about this person and where the tides have turned, and why this person became a serial killer, or you know, why this person is so clingy with a particular item. You know what I mean? And like you said, man, it's so hard. There's always, I hear it a lot where a person's has a battle that you don't know what they're going through. They're fighting a battle that you don't know.
Right.
And so, and I think I have to be super careful with how I respond with my words, or if I tell someone something, because you don't know if that's going to be the last straw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Or just be careful to not eat the couch. So that's the last straw.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it is difficult to
Yeah, you know, it is. I feel like we are all imperfect people, and I think that we are always encouraged to be as perfect as possible, and that's an impossible task, right? So again, realizing that everybody has their own story and their own narrative going on in their heads, it's helped me try to be more present and more patient. But it's, again, something that I'm still continually working on and struggling with at times.
Yeah. it's good to reevaluate things I need to work on because I don't.
Yeah. Well, hey, man.
I don't.
I think what's good though is addressing it, realizing it, recognizing it, and again, figuring out like if this is something that you truly want to change or work on or develop or evolve from, like what are the steps you got to take? And again, just talking about it is the first step.
Yeah. I love it. This conversation has been so super good, Joe. Yeah. I think we're definitely gonna dive in more
for sure. I got tons of bad traits that I could get into another time.
Next time I'm gonna have a list. But it's gonna wrap it up for us
for sure.
And if you've been watching us or listening to us, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Very much appreciated. Please, if you can, get it out to your friends or whatnot. If you've enjoyed it, give a like and subscribe to our platforms. And we'd love to just be a part of your journey as well, whatever it may be. So we'll see you on the next one.
Yep. Peace.
Shoots.